live. What's going on, guys? We're back again with another video. And today it was a snooze fest performance under difficult conditions on a pitch, a turf pitch, an artificial pitch, but also very cold up there in Norway, where our captain Martin Odegaard comes from. But more importantly, Arsenal got the 3 points, got the win, and ran out of there with no casualties to our main players and also to our bench players that came on today. I also want to say shout out to everyone in the chat. I do have two very special guests here today with me, but also very good friends of mine, and it's an honor to have Manny on the channel. Before I get into the reaction with Bukayo Saka's goal, getting us the 3 points and getting us out of there safely, do make sure to check out my previous video. I was on Luka AFC's channel with the lovely Sophie from Highbury Squad. It was a pleasure chatting to her of all things Arsenal, but also about the process slowly turning into progress and what more can we expect from Mikel, but also what more expectations do we have from this team going into the January transfer window and also going into the World Cup. So do check that out on my friend Luka AFC's channel. It was just done live not long ago and just ended. But we are going to be going into the match reaction today for Arsenal versus Bodø Glimt away from home. We got the 3 points at the end of the day, and next Thursday we go on to play Van Nistelrooy's PSV. But also, I'm going to be on Scout Watch for Cody Gakpo. So let me go ahead and run back that intro real quick and then get my guest's opinion of the game and talk about our performance today. Let me go ahead and run back that intro real quick.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, I want to thank Luka and Manny for both joining me this evening, very late in the UK, Manny. It's a pleasure to have you on the platform. And how are you guys doing tonight?
Very good.
Yeah, all good. All good. I mean, I've sort of been busy today with, watch-alongs and streams and so forth, and it's good to sort of have a more relaxing sort of atmosphere. And as you mentioned, Melina, this might be just short and sweet. No real in-depth technical analysis, no player ratings, just a sort of a fireside chat, if you will. So
yeah, just a review of the game. And I think, I don't think there was much involvement in the game today for us to do a full-on tactical analysis. I actually didn't think we even set up tactically today. We got saved at some points where, Bodø tried to grow into the game in the second half. And I think Manny and Luka, tonight's game, the shining light and the shining spark is from Team USA, Matt Turner. He had his best game in an Arsenal shirt by far tonight. And I think we're seeing, the resilience, but also the hunger in him wanting to prove himself in an Arsenal shirt. Now, signing someone who's not UK based, a lot of scrutiny happened under his eyes when we signed him. He's from America, he's not going to perform well. He plays for Team USA, he's not going to turn up. His distribution wise, I think he needs to just work on the ball movements. But tonight I did see quality from him, especially in terms of his positional awareness. There was a chance in a corner for Bodø Glimt near the end of the game, and he was superb to get very strong hands on the ball, getting off the line, distribution, and we had him as a sweeper keeper tonight. He did the job, came out of the game strong, and I think he's going to be one of the players, and I think one of the few players tonight who will be smiling going home from a very cold Norway from ear to ear. Tonight's performance, there was some prospects, as we know, Nelson and Nketiah, they didn't really have a great game. And Reece Nelson, mind you, if he wants to prove himself to Mikel on, Mikel, give me more minutes in the Europa competitions. I don't think Nelson had a great game. Now, the one things I did find that he did all right was the man marking, the passing, and I think what really, really hindered his performance tonight was the finishing in the final third. We lack quality. And I overall, even to Eddie Nketiah, Luka, you mentioned earlier on your channel, Nketiah didn't really have much service, but forget that. At the position you play, you have to be involved to get your hand on the game. You didn't insert yourself in the game at all. And I felt he was far too quiet. Luca and Manny, I want to ask, what was your thoughts of Marquinhos and Vieira tonight?
Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. I'll go
You
first
go
because
first,
I was doing a bit of doing a watch along, two watch alongs actually. I was on Stephen's channel first of all, and I went over to my close mate Danny AFC to do the second half. Luca came on our stream, and we were doing the earlier game at the Emirates between Arsenal and Bodø Glimt,
Yes.
and we were just talking tactics in a way, and it was interesting to see that obviously with Nketiah not really being strong enough to have the striker's role all to himself and be the lone striker, it had to be a 4-3-3. And
Definitely.
and Arteta sort of made an interesting selection where, of course, he had to have Odegaard on the right side of that three-man midfield with Samuel Hong in the centre, and Vieira was out left. Now, one thing I do enjoy, Melina, is seeing left-footed players play on the left wing. I am not necessarily a fan of seeing these inverted wingers, if you will.
Yeah,
sort of coming in, making those inward runs and then shooting on their stronger foot. We do seem to see a lot of that of late, and the only way it works for almost every player is if they have the natural ability to be able to turn and do that. I don't see that with Saka, for instance, and one reason why Vieira. He enjoys playing in that position on the right, but he doesn't really offer that sort of a width. So being on his stronger left side, in theory, I thought he would have had a more pivotal role in the game, and I thought we would see him come into it. But surprisingly, we didn't see too much of him. I don't think he was able to really assert himself in that position. So I think he now definitely feels to be a lot more comfortable playing on the right. But that aside, I just didn't really see too much of him, being able to assert himself. The same issues that you had with Reiss Nelson,
yes.
as you would say. And of course, I remember you saying that Reiss Nelson and Marquinhos were effectively cut from the same cloth. And it just goes to show, Melina, that when it comes to certain players who come into the squad as newbies, if you will, and have these debuts, if they don't really kick on and improve from that, it can be a bit more of a disappointment. But I think tactically, Arteta sort of made Vieira feel a little bit confused. I don't think he felt necessarily too comfortable in that position. And of course, with Marquinhos coming on, replacing Reiss Nelson, it was, same player, different results. And he never really was able to exert himself, although he didn't really have too much in terms of time. I think the whole story really was a case of, one or two players like Turner and Saka excelling, a few players missing out on chances to stake a claim for more action, a few players disappointing, one or two others having decent games. And as you've said, if we had to pick a man of the match, it had to be Matt Turner. And I'm one of the few people who actually defended this signing. A lot of people have based their derision of him on the fact that he conceded. He had a sort of a somewhat high goals against average per game, but he does have some ability. He was a part of that New England Revolution team, which I think won a cup competition and made. I think they finished first in the regular season and just missed out on winning the US Open Cup.
That's correct.
If they were knocked out in the semi-finals. And of course, he was the starting goalkeeper for the US team, which won the Gold Cup sort of around about that time. So we knew that he had some ability. The only problem was, I think, taking a look at him, he looks rather slim, maybe of a somewhat slighter build than the goalkeepers we've been used to. David Seaman, certainly Jens Lehmann, and a few others. I think one thing I can definitely say that he was at least a lot bulkier than our friend Luca. So that was a cheap shot, I know, but I had to bring that in. And so I was just worried about how physically he would be able to, adapt to the Premiership. And obviously, we can't jump to conclusions based on 3 Europa League games. He will obviously get a few more.
It's not a larger analysis of his overall physique and also of his overall performance.
Exactly. I mean, obviously with his physique, you can see that he does need to. He's not really as physically imposing as the goalkeepers of yesteryear, but. If he's given more confidence, obviously he will sort of grow into it. Will he start over Ramsdale more often? I don't know. Arteta clearly has more confidence in Ramsdale, who has been there, won the T-shirt and so forth. And Turner does look to be improving. I'd like to see him seriously play more in the EFL Cup and maybe the FA Cup. As for the Europa League, Arteta normally has a tendency to let the second goalkeeper play the group games, but when it comes to the nitty-gritty of the
We
knockout
put
stages,
Ramsdale in the knockouts.
exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
we did that. We did that with Emiliano Martinez and Bernd Leno. He played against Olympiacos, and of course, he got us knocked out. And it had to fall on Martinez to win the FA Cup that season and save our season because we finished 8th. So
Can I also
Turner's
say
still,
one more thing
yeah.
to that, Manny? Sorry to cut you off, but there's another thing Arteta does smart is the rotation. Martinelli, Gabriel, and Granit Xhaka started the first 2 group games, if you remember. And I think
Yeah.
the next 2 group games, we'll see Saka, Saliba, and White. He's very tactical in terms of that. And once we win the group, he'll put the kids on for the remaining games where it doesn't really matter as much. You know, when it comes to fighting and when it comes to making that impact, Arteta's got a lot better in terms of the rotation and getting a hand on the game. And I do agree with you that I think Ramsdale will come on later on in the stages of the game.
Agreed completely, but let's not forget that it's not a foregone conclusion that we win the group because PSV will be
Oh yeah,
determined.
that's a huge test for us.
Yeah, they're going to take out their frustrations, Melina, on missing
Yes.
out on the Champions League on us because if you recall, they just lost to Rangers marginally in that playoff, and Rangers didn't distinguish themselves in this season's champ. PSV will want to turn, their anger on us. And of course, Van Nistelrooy was our tormentor in days gone by. So he will probably obviously have his team motivated. I get what you're saying about the rotation, but again, if we have these 2 games against PSV, he will obviously, be tempted to play a few more of the regulars. And how he will do that without compromising our strength for the Premiership games that follow will remain to be seen, because let's not forget, making sure that we don't get any injuries will be important. So I hope I answered your question there.
No, you did. And Luca, I want to ask you something before I introduce Steven. Steven, thanks so much for your time. I hope you're feeling better. Luca, I wanted to ask you something in terms of the performance today overall. I think it was something, to summarize in a few words. You take the 3 points and you run away, because Bodø Glimt are not a team you underestimate. They're unbeaten, 14 games at home, and they're no mugs. They beat Celtics and they beat Rangers. They beat Roma 6-1 under Jose Mourinho. And I think Bodø Glimt had good chances in the game. They just couldn't finish, or it went over the bar. Matt Turner made some good saves today, but I think, tonight, I don't think we should be marking as critically our players in terms of the performance. We played on the surface that we're not used for, and I'm surprised the Europa League even allowed those conditions. For me, and what do you think? Do you think it's a game where you take the 3 points, you have no injuries, and you run back home?
For me, it's a game where you have to take 3 points, because it was a vital 3 points to qualify for the competition. Even if we would have lost tonight, yes, it would have been the end of the world, because we would have won the rest of the games, and I wouldn't be complaining. But however, I just look at it thinking, performance-wise, I just think the problem with the performance was the pitch, the artificial pitch. I think we're not used to be playing on those circumstances. We've had players like Saka and all them lot. I criticised the team a little bit when I was thinking, why is he starting the likes of Saka, right? Where that Arteta's got to give him a rest. And yes,
he doesn't need a rest.
Well, he does, because for
He
me,
doesn't.
I think he's trying to say
once-
because we got Leeds on Sunday.
I know, but he's playing once a week, and he's had a rest in the summer. He doesn't need a rest.
we're playing twice a week at the moment. Europa League.
Yeah, but most of the games he's played once a week.
All right, fair enough. Well, let him finish his point.
Sorry, go on.
That's fine. But performance-wise, it wasn't really a good performance, because I think the way the pitch was, they're more used to be playing on the pitch. And I said it on Stephen's channel tonight. I said they will be playing on the pitch because they're unbeaten in 14 games at home before the game. They're more used to the football on the pitch, whereas us, we've played teams like that on a artificial pitch before. And I remember we picked up injuries once or something like that. And for me, look, it's always a difficult place to go to. It's not easy. It's a hostile stadium. It's 8,300 capacity, right?
Yeah.
And the club existed in 1916. But however, I just think, look, it wasn't a good performance. Eddie Nketiah, for me, he didn't get the service, right? I know he wasn't that. But for me, I do think maybe he's one of those players where I do think he needs to work for it, right? He needs to work for it. He needs to earn it, okay? There's no good people saying, oh, yeah, he didn't get the service. Well,
he should be going after the balls. Don't just stand there. Yeah.
Right, waiting for the ball.
Insert yourself into the game.
And tackle and do that. Saka, for me, I thought him and Matt Turner were the best two players, but if you had to pick one, Matt Turner was our best player tonight.
Yes.
Matt Turner, you saw, look, there was one little moment, and I said it on Stephen's channel earlier, when there was a corner to them in stoppage time, there was a point where Matt Turner looked a bit nervous on his hands when he was trying to command and trying to punch the ball out of the way. That was the bit where I started to get a bit, oh my God, is he going to concede? But however, he looks very good. And Matt Turner, for me, you've got to give him credit. Look, I don't rate the guy, but however, he's doing very well at the moment.
Yeah.
He's doing the job, and that's what we want for Arsenal fans. We want him to do the job. We want him to do good. He's not my keeper who I wanted as a number 2. I wanted a keeper that's come in and actually won everything, like an experienced keeper. So, no, I think performance-wise, not the greatest. We've got the 3 points. We only need a point, I believe, to qualify for the last 16. If we top the group, we don't play in the last 32. So we automatically go through. So.
And before I bring Stephen into the conversation, I do want to address this comment here. Were you happy with Eddie's performance? Jason, first of all, thanks for tuning in. And tonight, Eddie Nketiah was disappointing. And I think that's one thing to say. But also, I expect him to turn up in these games. Now, with the lack of service from the midfield, I felt the midfield was poor tonight. And I know Gary put in the comments, it's unacceptable to bring Thomas Partey on because of how injury prone he is, made out of glass. And in these type of games, we're supposed to play our backup players, our youngsters, and players who can't get minutes in the Premier League. Now, with that being said, tonight's game, Bodø Glimt, as we said earlier, is not a team you underestimate. So Arteta went for a semi-strong, starting 11. We saw some, of our younger players and less experienced players come on, Vieira, Marquinhos. We saw them play today. I would have preferred Ben White, Saliba, and Saka be rested, if I'm being honest with you, in my comments of the starting 11. There was no reason to play them today. I felt they should have been rested to focus on Ellen Road on Sunday. Leeds, we tend to do well against. However, at Ellen Road, it's a different energy and a different atmosphere. Their fans are definitely up for it. And later on in the season, it's going to get tougher. We can't afford to risk players. Tonight, my takeaway from this game, before I go to Steven, is we got the 3 points. It was not a convincing performance at all. We played under tough conditions, but that's no excuse for some of our players being silent today. I think, we diced out and got lucky there at some moments. Bodø Glimt did try to get into the game. They had a couple of chances. And tonight, I think it's just a matter of, us focusing next on PSV. It's a tough game for us and a decent grind overall, this performance. Stephen, I do want to ask you about the performance in midfield. The midfield tonight, having to bring on Granit Xhaka off the bench, I felt gave some stability and control of the game, but I did feel that was unnecessary. We were trying to ride out a 1-0 win. Sometimes the biggest teams that even won the league, they grind out these kind of results. They're not the best or beautiful performances, but you get the win and you move on. What did you make to summarize the performance tonight of the midfield? Oh, sorry, Stephen, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. I was expecting a tough battle in the midfield.
Yeah.
If you saw, I remember having the preview, and Bodø Glimt, the Bodø Glimt fan on there,
yes,
made it very clear that they always play with the same attacking fearlessness.
Yes.
At their ground. So, yeah. By the way, sorry if you can't hear me too well. I can't speak too loud.
It's okay. We can hear you perfectly fine.
That's right, fine. But yeah. Overall in the midfield, yes, there were. Vieira didn't work. Being in the deeper role, he needs to be up front. He needs to be getting forward. He's like a Xhaka. He needs to be further forward. That didn't work. I get the point of trying to rest Granit Xhaka and also Partey as well.
Yes.
But you can see that how detrimental they are to the team. And fuck me, I wouldn't be saying that 2 years ago about Xhaka, for goodness sake. So you can see how much he's improved. But if you look at... Yes, the midfield didn't get Eddie Nketiah the service.
Nope.
Right? But... and this is what I've said in my... earlier, is that this is why Nketiah is not good enough for this club, right? And if he is going to be good enough for this club, he needs to start learning off Gabriel Jesus very bloody quickly, right? If you can see Gabriel Jesus, right?
He's a prolific striker.
He's not just prolific, and he's not just clinical. When he's not got the ball and he's isolated,
he creates chances for other players.
Drifts. He does what Henry used to do. He drifts left. He drifts right.
Yep.
He draws people because of the threat. It draws defenders out. It creates space. If you remember, Henry used to do it down the left all the time.
Yeah.
It created space for Perez, Lundberg, Bergkamp. He used to create all that space to be able to penetrate the defence. It's exactly the same with Jesus. They're so afraid of him because they know he's on form. They drag him away. So they're dragging defenders out of position. Then Odegaard comes in. You've got Martinelli coming in, which is a handful in himself, right? Because then it leaves him one-on-one with on his left back. And
he's able to take them on better. Yep.
Yeah, he's able to take on the left. Saka's been able to take on the left back of their defence because he's one-on-one with them. He's also got the overlap. So yeah, so he creates all that space and opportunity. Eddie Nketiah doesn't do this, right? And if he doesn't start doing this, right, he needs to be out the door. I'm sorry, because he's not good as a number 2. I know people have said, yeah, he scores goal in the Europa League, but what happens if he gets injured? What Jesus gets injured? We need him to score goals in the Premier League as well. And every time he's played in the Premier League, he's failed. Right? When you can't make the bench for Leeds when they're in the Championship, that says a lot of you as a player. When you can't make the England first team and you're stuck in the under-21s and you're now nearly 22, right? That says a lot, right? It says, and you've got Saka and you've got Smith Rowe getting ahead of him in the England squad, right? And they're 2 years younger than him. So, I don't.
He's still got to show us improvement.
It's not just about. I'm not like going to call this all about Nketiah, right?
Yeah.
Because overall the team was poor. It was.
Yeah.
It was one of those where.
It wasn't a great performance, and we got the result.
Yeah, it's one of those. Champions do that.
Yeah.
Winners of competitions do this. They play like shit in one of the group games, right? Or against a poor team, but they get the result.
Yes.
Right? Like George Graham used to do it. We won the Cup Winners' Cup doing it. We scored in the 24th minute and then we sat back and just sat there and soaked up the pressure, right? And people said that's boring.
Arsene Wenger used to do it.
Yeah,
well, no, but George Graham was renowned for it. That's why everyone called him Goring Boy in Arsenal. It's weird to turn 1-0 Arsenal came along, right?
Yeah.
But that's the last time we won a European trophy, and I'm not moaning since, am I? So, in the end, people only remember the result, and in the end, we got the result, right? Now, PSV, people are saying, like, as much as we want to play our second team in the Europa League, PSV is going to be a different kettle of fish. PSV we're going to have to take seriously, right? We're going to have to play some strong players in that game. They're no mugs, they're a good side, right? And probably underdogs, I would say. They're underdogs in this competition.
And they're coming back wounded from, elimination previously. And I'm sure they'll have a point to prove.
Exactly.
Before I get
But
into Gary's comment, I want
I
to
just,
ask. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, so I just wanted to finish with the fact that, like, also Luke had just mentioned earlier, right? It says a lot about the performance when the best goalkeeper is Matt Turner,
Yeah,
like the best player
but
is
he
Matt
had a
Turner,
great game
and
tonight.
he showed that he's good enough to be the backup
Yes.
for our club at the minute, right? And people might think, and I've heard what Luke had to say about what he wants as a goalkeeper, but if you get someone who's already won trophies, right, into as a backup goalkeeper, he's going to stay there for 5 minutes and he's going to piss off because he knows he can play every week somewhere else. Right? The reason Matt Turner's coming to Arsenal as a backup keeper is because, like, he's not going to get a better opportunity anywhere else.
Yes.
That's the point. So that's why there's always going to be that little drop off from Ramsdale to the second keeper, right? But as long as it's not a massive drop off, I still think, if by the look of the way he's on the ball and the way he saw his shot stopping was today, that was a lot better than what Leonard would do.
His shot stopping was incredible today, and I
But it
did
was a
mention
lot.
that earlier on in this
But the
video.
fact it was his movement, his
Yes,
control of the ball.
and his control on hand of the ball itself. Bodø got a corner near the end of the game, and
It's a
he
lot
took
better than
really,
Leno's.
really good control of that. Yeah.
And
I want to address Sammy Lokonga. Manny, I'll start with you. Sammy Lokonga had a decent first half. He made some great turns and won some good, balls through. But I still think he's a very young and raw player. He still needs more positional awareness, and he lost the ball 3 times in key areas. I don't know if it's a lack of confidence or if it's, because he's young and raw on and off the ball at times. I still think he has some areas where he could improve. He looked impressive in the first half. He actually did help with the goal to Bukayo Saka today. Um, he made good passes side to side, which was not good enough. And I think when you're growing on into the game, when you're growing into the position that you are in, trying to kind of fit into your role, but also not being in respective positions, put our defense out of line in a way. I felt a bit on edge, and I felt like at times he could have done better in terms of his first touch. And I still think he has a lot to do. I'm not being so critical on him, but I do think tonight he had a good first half, but the second half, he dropped down a bit.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment, really, because let's not forget that this is a guy who, you said it perfectly. I mean, it does seem to me to be a crisis of confidence, and I think you've sort of picked up on that. Last season, he has memories of how things went, and no matter how much assurance he gets that it's still a clean slate, it sort of plays on your mind in a way. And I think also the fact that they were playing on a different pitch than what they were normally used to, that also sort of played into it, because I'm certain that throughout his career he never really got to grips with playing on that. Maybe some of the more established Premiership veterans did. I'm not too sure that Lokonga did. I also think it's fair to say, Melina, that he feels under pressure still to be able to prove himself, because although he is the man in possession of that status as Thomas Partey's backup, he also knows that he owes his good fortune, at least in some part, to
Yes.
Mohamed El Neni not being fit. El Neni's currently injured. So I guess it is a bit of a crisis of confidence. Does he really feel as though he can, establish himself? And putting him in that that centre midfield role where Thomas Partey would normally occupy in a three-man midfield, he does also need to have the support of someone like a Granit Xhaka who can also help him sort of get into the game a bit more. And that was one aspect of the midfield. The lack of leadership. Yes, Captain Odegaard was there, but what role does he actually play in
He was
terms of
not
stabilizing?
existent in the game today. Our midfield was non-existent.
Midfield
I
was
get.
very poor.
Can I make a point about the pitch, please, as well? Sorry.
Yeah, I'll get to your point about the pitch, but let me just ask my
yeah.
question. I'll come to you. So, when you have a situation where you have a captain who clearly doesn't really lead too much by example, and you have another newbie on his other side, Sambi Lokonga probably feels under a bit more pressure, and of course, there is this. It was a rather tricky game. So, how does Sambi approach this game? What does he do? How is he able to truly exert himself on the game and play the way that Thomas Partey would? What would Thomas Partey do in that situation? That is another area where I think, in many ways, he might have been left to dry in a way. And of course, when Partey came on, he only had about 8 minutes. So I think it is fair to say that he is going through a bit of a crisis of confidence. And of course, the Europa League has probably come a little bit too early for him. He should be able to play in the EFL games, EFL Cup games, and the FA Cup to try to bring some confidence back up. But I just think he really needs to, trust himself a little bit more and just, try and find it in himself to get that reserve of inner strength and start to, feel as though he belongs. And I think if he had Xhaka next to him, Granit Xhaka, that is, that leadership and that drive would have been more than helpful, in my opinion, in getting him to perform better. So that's pretty much my take on it. And Stephen, you wanted to talk about the pitch?
Yeah, I wanted to. I know it's a different pitch, right? And we've had problems with artificial pitches before, but I don't want to use that I don't really want to use that as an excuse, because it's the same for both teams. For example, I know they get an advantage in that sense because they played it more often, but in the end, if you're on an artificial pitch, the one thing is that it's going to be flat and you should be able to play on the floor, for example. But I don't think that was the real reasons why we were struggling today. I think it was just the fact that the team was poor today. We were just that poor today. We were struggling with the battle in the midfield, which I predicted was going to be a tough battle, and I don't think it was going to be. I said 2-1 in my prediction because it was going to be a difficult battle. It was going to be a very tight, difficult game, and anyone that thinks that Bodø Glimt were going to just sit there and roll over, and thinking how many were going to score. Well, you need to start showing respect to some of these teams, because when you go to their places, this is why sometimes I like the Europa League, in rather than the Champions League. Don't get me wrong, I want to be back in the Champions League, right? But in the Europa League, you get to go to these sometimes not even far away places, but even Norway or someone like that, and you see these fans, and they were at the Emirates as well. You could hear them all the way, even though the Emirates has been loud for so many games now, it's been nothing. I've never seen the Emirates like it throughout my time. Since going there, since we've moved there, I've never seen the Emirates so loud by Arsenal fans, right? But the fact is that they were non-stop for minute 1 to minute 90. Unlike Tottenham fans who like to just hit the exits by about the 70th minute. Got to stick that one in there. Or Liverpool as well.
Or Manchester United.
Yeah, we ain't got to that one yet. But let me just say is that they stay from minute 1 to minute 90, and even after that, and they soak up every single bit of the experience. And in this game as well, they were minute 1 from minute 12, and whoever's living right outside that stadium, where you've got a frigging window looking in, can I buy your flat? Because I'm happy to live in that support. Jesus, I mean, but yeah, like I said, Bodø Glimt should be proud. It's even though they didn't score a goal against us, and they both lost games. They both lost their games. I think if you add it all up, they made a good account of themselves tonight.
I think we got lucky tonight to go out there with the win.
I think a couple of
they made 2-3 chances. Yes, one went really over the bar and far off the field.
Yeah, there were 3 or 4 chances that
Matt Turner kept us in the game tonight.
Yeah, but also 3 or 4 chances that they put wide that should have been in the back of the net. It should have been 2-3-1 to Bodø Glimt. So
this is what Gary addresses here.
We did ride our luck very well, and yeah, as much as the pitch was like is one factor, it's not one of the major reasons why we were just poor today. I think it was just the fact that the team did step up, and certain players that want to be in the starting 11 did step up. With Lokonga, it's the same with Nketiah. Lokonga, it's only his second season, and do you know what, these experienced players like Partey, I mean, even Saka now, you can even count that, and you can count Martinelli as well. If it, like Marquinhos couldn't even start learning from Saka and Martinelli what they've picked up, Partey can start. You Partey and or should be teaching Lokonga and Vieira what they need to be doing, right? Granit Xhaka needs to be, well, teaching them how to do it without getting himself sent off.
Stephen, I do want to address some comments in the chat.
Yes, sorry, but like I'm saying, we've got the main players that we got should be helping these players that are playing in Europa League.
Yes.
To improve their game.
And I think it's the leadership too. So I want to address this comment here from SJ. He says, Sambi will be lost if there is no experienced head alongside him in center mid. He can be a good box-to-box midfielder, and maybe a loan next season will do him good. I want to bring this point to Luca. Luca, you mentioned a couple of times on your stream when I was over on your channel for previous match reactions that, it's clear that Sambi Lokonga might need a loan to build confidence, but also get first-team football minutes under his belt, whether it's in the Championship, whether it's in the Premier League at a different club, or whether it's outside of the Premier League entirely. I think he's a good player. I think there is something in him, but I do think a loan can help him develop and improve his game.
I look at Samuel Lokonga. Look, don't get me wrong with Samuel Lokonga. I mention this all the time on my channel, right? Samuel Lokonga, for me, he's a player what Arsenal fans will like and what I like. And for me, I think this guy has got potential to be a good player in the next 3 or 4 years. But I think he needs a loan deal in January.
Yes.
Whether Arsenal Football Club and whether Arteta and Edu will do that in January, whether we do go out and buy a midfielder, I can't see us loaning him out in January, but potentially maybe in the summer. But for me, in an ideal thing, I do think January is an ideal to do that.
I think it'd be the summer league. I don't think they'll take the risk in the January transfer window, because I don't think they'll be looking to bring anyone in unless it's a loan. Right, so to be.
Well, you never know. Hey, we're a different Arsenal. Don't write us off.
I know, but what I'm saying is just because what we spent this summer, right? If you saw last season, because we spent the same amount, they were only going to go for a target if it was the right move. But I think for the Conga, they want to make sure that he's there as a backup, so in case we get injuries. So I doubt they would be gone in January.
I also do want to ask this comment here. Tavares and Sambi are good players. Just Arsenal are playing them out of position. They are not comfortable where Arteta wants to play them. Now, we did have this kind of problem previously, in a way, under Pepe. There were times where we could have used Pepe as a facilitator, but the system Arteta was playing at the time didn't suit his strengths. It didn't suit the Pepe that we saw from Lille. And, unfortunately, it didn't work out for Pepe at Arsenal at the moment. And we didn't get the 72 million player that we were supposed to have. And I know there was a scandal with the other 20 million from that deal, but I'll leave that alone. Pepe as the player, though, I think, Gary has a point here. The system Arteta wants to play is fixated that, certain players, you're trying to put a peg through, a hole that doesn't fit. And
square pegs in round holes.
Yeah, that's what Gary said just earlier on. And at some point, I think Sambi does need a loan. I think it can improve, his confidence, like Manny said earlier. And like Luca said, I think, back up to Thomas Partey, that's huge boots to fill. And personally, Douglas Luiz from Villa could be, well and truly, the guy we go for in the January window.
Exactly.
Now, SJ makes a bold comment. He says Sambi could be our next Willock. There is potential.
Look, there's a possibility. Look, Lokonga could be the next Joe Willock. Well, that is a very good point. But however, he needs a loan deal, like whether it's going to be in January or the summer, so he can gain more football. Look at Guendouzi, right? Look how
Or
Guendouzi.
Saliba, we loaned him out 3 times, and look at the player we got. It feels like a new signing. And sometimes look at Balogun. We've loaned him out twice now, and Balogun's having a good season so far.
Balogun's done more
to
effort compared to Eddie
with,
Nketiah.
Yeah.
With Saliba, to be fair, he was already highly rated in the French league.
Yes,
He
it's
was
true.
very highly rated already, so he already had that sort of talent already shining. So I think with like I said with Lokonga, I'm not saying he should be going on a loan deal. I definitely think the loan deal will be good for him. I just think that doing it in January will be something they don't want to do. I think big up Mr. Miami. I think doing it in the summer is probably the better option because it also gives us a chance to see what we can get
Other
in the summer
targets
as well.
Yeah.
Like,
And if we get Champions League, you could dangle the carrot with Champions League
Because what I'm saying
targets.
is, if we get Champions League, we might not get Douglas or Reese. We might
Yeah,
get
someone better. Yeah. Great point, Stephen. Manny, I do want to talk to you a bit and ask all of you guys, looking ahead now, we have to play Van Nistelrooy's PSV, but also some of us are very well and truly going to be scouting a certain Cody Gakpo that this summer was linked with Leeds. Now, going into this game, I want to ask, what starting 11 will you play? Would you prefer to play? What's your predicted starting 11? And that team is very much, hungry to prove themselves, redeem themselves after a tremendous loss. Do you think it's going to be a walk in the park for Arsenal? Or do you think we are going to be tried and tested, and that's where we really have to make our mark?
Well, let me start by saying this. I think so far, one thing which we have done well so far, and emphasis on so far, is actually being able to do well in the sort of games against Crystal Palace and Brentford, which would normally be banana skins. The worst thing we could do now is is sort of ignore the threat that are wounded to pose. I actually predicted that Leeds would do very well against Crystal Palace, but for them to lose to a team that appears to have been found out in some ways and is still dangerously hovering above the relegation zone. What's that sound? Okay,
Sorry,
cool.
Stephen.
Yeah, so to lose to a team hovering above the relegation zone, I think it would have hurt their pride in many ways. So they are going to want to make sure they set the record straight and try and get back into the groove, as it were. And as I've said, Melina, Leeds will be a team. They are safe for the most part in 13th or 14th, and they do have the makings of a side which would normally challenge other teams. And certainly in their win against Chelsea, for instance, they proved just how good of an attacking threat they are. And interestingly enough, they enjoy playing the same 4-2-3-1 season that Arteta normally prefers to play. So do I see Arsenal switching to a 4-3-3? No, not if it will necessarily weaken the midfield, unless, of course, they decide to become a little bit more fluid and go back to their 4-2-3-1. And certainly taking a look at their squad, the likes of Rodrigo, Patrick Bamford, Max Aronson, and Jack Harrison, have been very crucial indeed to their success. Just taking a look at their last lineup, they did in fact opt for the 4-2-3-1. Obviously, Liam Cooper and Robin Koch coming back into the centre of defence with the likes of Luke Ayling to also come back in. Maybe Junior Firpo and Forshaw can come back. Somerville is also a good option off the bench. Crescencio Somerville, I hope I pronounced that correctly. And as I've mentioned, Aronson, Rodrigo, and Harrison normally form that sort of three-man
partnership.
You could say that with Bamford up front. And of course, Rodrigo also played up front. So attacking-wise, they do have a lot to offer. The key men will probably be the two in the defensive midfield position.
Yes.
Tyler Adams and Mark Roca. So they're going to have to be quite solid when coming up against potentially the threat of our front three of Odegaard and Granit Xhaka and whoever else it may be. And of course, we have our own front three in Saka and Martinelli and Jesus.
Yes,
Jesus,
definitely.
of course, can play as a lone striker. So I don't know if Arsenal will necessarily play the 4-2-3-1 formation if it cancels everything out. But then if they play the 4-3-3, I don't want to see them necessarily weakening their midfield. So again, it will be one in the midfield, not just in the defensive two-man midfield, but also in the more attacking three-man midfield. And they're going to have to work to stifle Aronson and Harrison and Rodrigo from supplying Bamford with any sort of supply. And let's not forget that these three themselves are capable of scoring goals. So this will be a very big test, in my opinion, for our defense. And segueing into the lineup, it should, in theory, be the same lineup which started the North London derby.
Tottenham.
I'm not too comfortable personally with playing Tomiyasu.
I was just about to ask you that.
Yeah.
Do you think it'll be Tierney, or do you think Zinchenko should be back then? As of now, we have no updates on Zinchenko. What do you think?
Well, Zinchenko was still out due to the injury, so
Yes.
I'm not too sure that he will recover in time for this game. I definitely would not want to see him rushed back. It could very well be that Arteta decides to stick with the Tomiyasu experiment at left back, but personally, I think the Ellen Road game is also the perfect game for Tierney to show exactly again what he's capable of, even if it means starting again with Ben White at right back and bringing Tomiyasu on. Let's make it crystal clear, Melina. Tomiyasu was just a horses for courses pick because Arteta had some sort of an intuition in how to deal with Mohamed Salah. But when it comes to the choice of left back, what Tierney offers, not only in defence and also going forward, once he is reunited with his first choice central defensive pairing, I actually think he would do fine. So Ramsdale in goal, Ben White at right back, Tierney at left back, the usual two of Saliba and Gabriel, because Holding did not do enough for me to convince me that he deserves to play.
Oh gosh, we missed Cedric today.
Yeah, Holding's
Holding didn't have a good game today. He had one good header to keep them away, and that was it. One good block, and that was it.
Right, and then of course you have Thomas Partey back in that holding midfield role. Then of course Odegaard to his right, Granit Xhaka to his left, and then of course Saka, Jesus, Martinelli. Saka will probably end up playing if it's a 4-2-3-1, he'll play on the right with Martinelli on the left, Odegaard up front with Partey and Xhaka being the two defensive midfielders holding everything and keeping it tight. So that probably might be the formation that Arteta chooses. It'll strengthen the midfield while also providing potential to choke supply to the front three and Bamford. And maybe that should be what he goes with. And of course, with Tierney, he knows how to overlap very well, unlike Tomiyasu, who couldn't overlap on the left.
We also have to talk about
Mohamed Salah.
We also have to talk about Tierney's passes. He's so direct, but not only the pace that he offers, but he gets in the right positions. And we don't see that from a lot of players in the past we've had. Tierney goes 150 miles per hour. That's one thing. When we're already winning a game, he doesn't know how to slow down. And I think that's the Scottish blood in him. But Tierney is a quality player, and I'm so glad to see him slowly come back into the Tierney that we know and we're used to. He had a great game the last match he played. Stephen, go ahead.
Yeah, just going to say fingers crossed he stays fit.
And I think the same thing with Gary was saying with Partey. There was no need for Partey to come on today. I personally said, when Granit Xhaka came off the bench today, I was happy. But at the same time, I said, you better wrap this guy in cotton wool. He doesn't get injured. But if our midfield was to get, an injury to one of our players, if we had a casualty tonight, this stream would have been a whole different conversation.
Mel, we all know. Yeah, let's be honest, we all know why you want to.
Yeah, and plus because I am going to the Zurich game at home, so I'd love to see him in the flesh. Oh no, Stephen left. I'm not sure if it's his connection, but hopefully he comes back. Oh, there he is. Darian, thank you for tuning in. He says, Matt Turner, great showing. Incredible performance. I think he had a great game. He had a good game tonight, and he was my man of the match. Pardon?
I just want to say about Holding.
Yes.
I don't care. This guy has to go.
Yeah.
He is shit. I don't get why there are people that are still his advocates for him. He's useless.
I think at times as a squad player even, he doesn't tend to do the basics. Tonight he didn't have a good game. With that being said, a lot of our players didn't turn up tonight.
Tonight he was awful, man.
Yeah.
This guy is not good enough for this football club.
Saliba plays usually on the right side.
Yes.
Ben White to support, right? But he's put on the left. But because he was put on the left side and Holding's on the right side, look how exposed.
You saw more weaknesses from Holding.
Right, because Holding's not supporting him. He
Yeah.
can't do the basics. If he can't do the basics of defending, how is there anyone saying he's still good enough?
Yeah.
Right? And I made a comment that I completely disagree with someone because they used him as an example to say we've got the best depth in the league. And I went, are you mad? Like,
I think it's clear in January we need to strengthen.
And because I completely disagree with him, like, mate, the abuse I got was mad.
Yeah, that's crazy. See, the thing is, there's my friends on the panel tonight, we often disagree on a lot of things, but you can't have a discussion or a debate if people agree on everything. And I think, having a healthy discussion, there's nothing wrong with, but don't abuse people for having a difference of opinion. I want to address this super chat from Steven. Steven, thank you so much. He says, big up Mel, we'll always support you, sister, even if you're Arteta in and a massive Xhaka fan. Come on, you Gunners. And come on, you Gunners, indeed. We need all the luck we got. We have to play PSV next Thursday in both legs, and it's not going to be easy, Luca. Van Nistelrooy has a point to prove. And also, it's going to be interesting to see what our youngsters turn up. Will they be hungry to get that result? And playing at home is a different conversation. The Emirates, our fortress, is rocking this season more than ever before in recent years. And I think, away from home, it's going to be a tough performance. And will we rise to the occasion? I hope so. Fingers crossed. But also the main thing I keep saying is, can we please leave out of these away wins and away performances with no casualties until the World Cup? And after the World Cup, whether there's casualties or not, I really hope we strengthen in January with a backup to Partey, a winger, and a right back. I think there's three key main areas to address.
Get 3 players in, but
I think one or two.
I think 1 or 2. Like for me, the central midfielder is the main issue we need. I don't think winger isn't like the ideal for now, but because we've got Martinelli, we've got Marquinhos, we've got Saka and that. Yes, we do need a winger in future transfer windows because Pepe ain't going to be here next season.
Yes, definitely.
So, however, the central midfielder who I like to bring in, I bring someone like Douglas Luiz. Look, he's not my first choice, but however, it will be a good signing. It's smart business. You ain't going to get anyone better than that in January. And for me, if the owners want to back Arteta, right, then and want to spend the money and being given money, you go and get a midfielder that's better than Thomas Partey. When you get a midfielder, it doesn't have to be class to add squad depth.
So I have to disagree. Right, if we're getting top 4, right, and we get top 4, and I feel even in January, unless we had a massive injury crisis, it'd be very, very, very difficult, right, for us not to finish in the top 4 this season, like the way we're playing at the minute.
Yeah.
Right, and the way this team's together at the minute, it will take a massive injury crisis for us not to make top 4, right, and a massive turning fortunes for everyone around us, right, because at the moment we are far better than most of the competition around us at the minute, apart from probably Man City, and a lot of what's most notable, rivals are even saying that, which means that we've got their attention, right? So what I'm saying is, like, I would rather not get Douglas Luiz in January and get top 4 in the summer, because if we get top 4 in the summer, we might not have to get Douglas Luiz, we might just have to go and get someone even better, and I'm talking better.
Yeah, but it could be better at the end of the day, but like I said before,
we could spend money on a big money signing a midfielder.
We don't have to sign what's his name, Douglas Luiz, or
In the summer, if we got Champions League, we could attract brighter
we
and
could
better.
attract
Yeah,
players
and
like
we've got
Tielemans,
and we've also
Savic,
got extra
players
money for
like
the
that.
Champions League as
Yes.
well. And because
I want to address this comment. What do you guys think? Manny, Gabriel is a liability too. We should move for Guardiol in January. He is an excellent player, by the way, Guardiol. I don't think he's going to be an easy catch. But with that being said, we are Arsenal Football Club. We should be able to attract the brightest talents. Manny, would you like to address this comment? Any concerns with Gabriel's performances the last couple of games? Now, he has been, in a way, although costing our defensive back line and costing us a bit in some games. Well, sorry, a lot in some games. I feel he tries to redeem himself as soon as he makes that mistake. He realizes that he's put a foot wrong. With that being said, I do feel our best partnership is with Ben White and Saliba.
I couldn't agree with you more on that, and it's a little bit ironic, really, that Ben White, supposedly being earmarked as a better option to play with Saliba, is now playing on the right wing because apparently, if it isn't broken, Arteta doesn't want to fix it, and moving in for another defender would be ideal, especially as I mentioned, Melina. We went into this game with 3 centre backs on the bench, and you can see for yourself that is the level of squad depth that will come back to hurt us if we're not careful, because it isn't just a question of simply making sure that we're prepared for injuries. We also definitely need some competition on the field
for certain positions. Yes,
exactly. And this is why I'm actually going to disagree with Stephen right now and say that I am sick and tired of this penny-wise, pound-foolish ideal that we hold off on making any major purchases, or at least any purchase which would suit the purpose right now, because look, the future is now, and we all know what happened last season when we actually had situations where some players either had injuries or went through bad patches of form, and how it cost us. And we could have bought Bruno Guimaraes, the midfielder, in January from January. He went on to Newcastle United instead, and he scored that goal, which killed our Champions League campaign. Now, back to Gabriel. Yes, he has been in poor form, and the reason why his poor form is a worry is that as beautifully as Saliba has played this season, I think he's now struggling because there doesn't seem to be that much in terms of leadership. The best defenses over the years at Arsenal have had some really good senior players who would take the defense by the scruff of the neck and say, look, this is the way we're supposed to play. Adams was able to develop as an Arsenal legend under the guidance of both Viv Anderson and David O'Leary for the most part. And then when he became more senior and had more authority, despite being a fairly young captain himself, he was able to guide that defence, as was the likes of Martin Keown and even Lee Dixon and Nigel Winterburn and others.
Yes.
What sort of leadership in the back four does Saliba have at the moment? And how poorly Gabriel is playing, it could end up having a knock-on effect on how Saliba plays in the long run. Why should we have to, run the risk of going throughout the season with only 3 established centre-backs when, in such a long season where we will be playing in 4 competitions, we are looking likely to get some injuries or some losses of form. So we definitely need some centre-back cover in that, because I don't want to be in a situation where we depend on an out-of-form Gabriel or even Rob Holding, who, as Stephen says, needs to go, is absolute rubbish, and for whom we will never forgive for his role in that ridiculous North London derby defeat. So I want to
Well, if you go on Twitter, everyone's forgot about that. He's now a guardian angel.
Oh, to heck with Twitter sometimes. But then here's, but that's the thing. That's the thing. And
don't ever say anything against Holding. You get a homophobic comment in reply.
What?
Oh, they're clearly holding on to Rob so much, aren't they? And so in the same way, as well as Partey is playing right now, his only competition for the moment, his deputy at the moment is Sambi Lokonga. El Neni is injured, and his contract will be up in the summer. So why, again, should we have to go into the business end of the season after Christmas with such a weak squad like that? I think we definitely need to strengthen. I'm not saying that we should do a Nottingham Forest or even a Tottenham Hotspur and buy players as if it were a fire sale. No, we pinpoint the players that we need for the positions that we need, and we strengthen. And if Gvardiol is an option in January, if he won't be cup-tied in Europe or wherever he's playing, or if he's available and can certainly lend some steel to our defends and certainly be an option to play if Gabriel makes one mistake too many and Holding simply can't be trusted, I'd say go for him. If we can get a decent midfielder, I say go for him. And this idea of depending on results at the end of the season, saying if we win the Champions League, we can go for better. I'm sorry, but with that mindset, we lost the Champions League last season. We can't simply afford to, depend on ifs and buts, because as I always say, if ifs and buts were sweets and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
So I want to see a specific, proper plan for strengthening the squad in January for that final push, and then we can reevaluate everything at the end of the season and decide which players can stay and which players can go. And several players who will be out of contract at the end of the season and won't have a role to play with us, they can go.
I want to address this comment that's kind of playing the devil's advocate. Stephen, if you would like to take this on, feel free. You can add your point as well.
I wanted to respond to Manny because he was obviously...
Perfect. Go ahead.
I get his point, but this is why I said in January, last season, the biggest thing we didn't do, getting Ronaldo on a 6-month loan. That would have been ideal for a 6-month loan. Right? If we got Ronaldo on a 6-month loan, we would have been top 4.
Got who?
Simple.
Onana.
Ronaldo.
Oh, Genie
Ronaldo. He was available for a 6-month loan. Could have done that easy. Like, trust me, I would rather, like, in January, if the right player comes available on loan, get him on loan, right? Right, and then evaluate whether he's good enough to stay in the squad at the end of the season, right? And if he's not good enough, and you know there's someone better out there we can get, right? Because we've made Champions League, because we got this guy on loan, right? Then we can go out and go get him, right? So we're strengthening January, but we're not investing in a player that we might think when we get into Champions League, he's not good enough, right? Can you see where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
Like, because like to get because if we win the Champions League, Arsenal can then attract the biggest names, and if they've already got a squad filled with players that they've already bought from January because of trying to make top 4, it's going to be a massive headache trying to say, yeah, well, we bought you in January, but we need you to go now because we want to buy someone else.
Well, Barcelona did that with Aubameyang, you see.
Yeah, but we're not Barcelona. I don't see.
I know. I get that.
I think doing a loan deal for 6 months to ensure that we've got good centre back cover and good midfield cover would be even better, because then we can evaluate whether they're good enough to stay in the squad to compete in the Champions League, and compete for the league, or we need to get someone better to be able to go Champions League. Because in the end, it's not about challenging for Champions League for me, right? That comes later, right? The main thing for me for next season or season after is either close the gap. If we're over 15 points, if we're over 10 points, I said, well done, Nketiah. Now close the gap next season, right? If we're within 10 points, I'll be expecting to get players to say, well, Nketiah, you've proved you can get us within 10 points, now go for the league. Right?
Okay, fair enough.
I'm backing you, so that's why I said, like, if we get a loan deal, right, to strengthen the squad, brilliant.
Again, that's a big if, but I get where you're coming from now.
I do want to kind of get the show wrapped up soon, as we are over an hour. It's all right. Gary says, this is a contradictory point to what Manny was saying earlier. Gabriel has more responsibilities this season. I feel he's got more pressure on him, and his play has dipped. One reason we've needed a senior leader with our center backs. We have none. And that's true. We don't have a senior leader in center back.
With Gabriel, right, I think his confidence has taken a massive hit. He's seen Salih becoming who is
a top quality. Yeah.
He is miles. He is the top of the top quality at the minute. On form, he's one of the best defenders in Europe.
Yes.
Right now. I'm not even joking. right? And he's got the ceiling to be a Tony Adams. I'm not even. This is not even gassing this player up. This is legit realism, right? Right. So, like, I mean.
Oh, sorry, 1 second. Yeah, I just blocked.
I was gonna make it. If I was gonna block, but
sorry, I normally don't get silly trolls in the chat.
Yeah,
or bot accounts or whatever it's called.
I was gonna block him, but obviously I'm not motivated, so I forgot. So, but look, anyway, like I was saying, because of that, and he's taken a massive hit on him, I think, and plus also because he knows he's the second best defender in our squad, right? In quality, let's be honest. Holding's not better than him. Ben White is been okay on the right, and he knows he's going to be on the right. So there's no one there to challenge him, right? So at the minute, what we need to do is, this is why I said for this game it was good that we played Saliba and we dropped Gabriel. So again, if we drop Gabriel for the next
game, if you drop Gabriel, Holding's not good enough. We don't have any. Otherwise, you play Ben White centre half.
No, you put Ben White in centre half, right? And you put Tomiyasu at right back.
Tomiyasu can also play at centre half.
For the Leeds game, right? Drop Gabriel, put Ben White. Drop Gabriel to the bench, put Ben White next to Saliba, put Tomiyasu on the right, right? It then it tells Gabriel, there's like, oh shit, he can change it if I don't perform, right? And it gives that competition for him to perform, right? And what Arteta then said to him in training, said, look, the reason you drop is because you're making too many mistakes, right? You need to fight for your space, right? Otherwise I'm gonna have to switch it up, right? And then you see then you see the measure of the man, right? You see if he's man enough to take on that and become a better player, or he's gonna shrink and hide. And if he shrinks and hide, then he needs to go.
Simple. You know what? It's been a great chat overall. We've been long over the hour mark, but we had a great discussion, and we also focused a bit on, hindsight into the upcoming January window, which is sooner than later, close by. I think Arsenal have already, in the works, in the background of scouting, and this World Cup is very soon next month. You are going to see a lot of teams bring their scouts out, and the market prices are going to rise more than before.
January could be look. We criticise the January transfer window because it's not that good compared to the summer. But it's going to be interesting how this window plans out, because for me, I wouldn't be surprised if it's going to be that worth the watch, because players have got to come back from the World Cup, like Gabriel Jesus, Gabriel and Martin.
Xhaka.
Trust me, the prices from the World Cup are going to be extortionate.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say.
They're already high in January. Plus, this is the thing, when people are saying we need to spend in January, think about how much it's going to cost. You're already high in January because people don't want to get rid of their players in January.
Plus, it's harder to sign permanent signings in January. But, if we're a top quality club, which we are, we have to act like it. And I do agree with Manny in that sense.
But you've also got the World Cup on top of that. And that's going to put like an extra 10-20 million on it.
But we are Arsenal Football Club, Stephen. We have to. I know, you have to spend the money.
I know, I'm just saying.
Before I wrap up this show, I do want to say a massive thank you to my panel tonight, Lucas, Stephen, and Manny. It's been a pleasure chatting all things Arsenal from tonight's game. I know the game was a snooze fest, if I'm being honest, but the glimpse of light and hope we have is Matt Turner. At number 2 keeper, he had a shining game today, and it was one of his best performances in an Arsenal kit. Bukayo Saka, his goal today and his performance before getting subbed off for my guy Granite, he carried us, and he got us on the score sheet tonight. We needed the win. We needed the 3 points. 9 points from 9 in Europa League for Arsenal. Not a pretty win and not a comfortable performance for us. Next up, we face Van Nistelrooy's PSV and Cody Gakpo. I will be
Oh, okay, I
back
missed
here
it.
on Sunday for the Leeds match reaction. With that being said, earlier today I featured on my friend who's on the panel with me tonight on Luca AFC's channel. We had a very special guest on his channel, Sophie from the Highbury squad. It was a really great show. We talked about the game today, but we also talked about my favorite player, Granit Xhaka. We also talked about, can Mikel compete with the likes of Man City and Holland?
And we talked about the 10-15 points.
We did talk about being off of a title charge, and we also talked a bit about the January window. We talked about her shows, so do check that out on Luca's channel. I do want to say shout out to everyone who tuned in the chat. It was very late stream tonight, and respects to the people from the UK on my panel tonight. It's currently 1:00 in the morning in their time, and Arsenal fans are crazy, but my friends are crazier. It was a wonderful show. I do want to give the platform now for them to shout out their platforms, and I'll be back here on Sunday. With that being said, thank you very much, Stephen, for joining me. Stephen, go ahead and tell everyone where they can find you and what your channel is about, and then Luca, and then Manny.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for having us on. It's a pleasure that I come on your show, Mel, and I hope to do it more often. Because you always support my channel from day one, and you're one of the reasons why I'm now on Money Ties channel. So
thank you very much, Stephen.
And the fact that you did your channel and yet you decided to put mine first is absolutely a testament to you as a person. So I can't thank you enough for that. Obviously big up the rest of the panel as well, who's helped me in the channel as well. Do go and check out my channel, Featley TV. We do Arsenal and Premier League content, so there's a show for all fans to come on and have their say, right? And we've got tomorrow hopefully a prediction stream later on in the evening to do to get the predictions out of the way for this weekend. We've got Leeds game coming up. We've got we usually get special guests like Joe Perry, the snooker champion, and many other guests as well. So, but yeah, there's loads of stuff loads of content you can find on my channel. So please, if you can, do hit the like and subscribe for this channel, and then go into my channel and go and hit the like and subscribe there. Also, if you could join the membership as well, or you can do a super chat when we're live, or we can just hit the Just Giving page in any one of our video descriptions. You go to donate to the Children's Liberties Foundation, and that helps fund research to save kids that are weeks old. It saves kids that are weeks old, like I've been through. It helps save their lives, and it makes such a difference. Even if it's just a small amount, it makes such a difference. So if you could donate whatever you can by being a member or super chat or whatever, however you want to do it, just please do so, because it really means a lot to us. And yeah, thanks for having us on.
No problem, Stephen. Luca, before I get to you, I do want to give a quick mention to Stephen's condition. So a lot of you guys do know Stephen in the chat, but some of you guys are new, so I really appreciate you tuning in from wherever you are in the world. But Stephen Featley is a great friend of mine, and unfortunately, since when he was months old, he had his first liver transplant, and unfortunately his first of 6 liver transplants from his donor, who is his mother. And since then, Stephen has been a bright hope in my life. When COVID happened and a lot affected my mental health, I'm a really extroverted person, and when the lockdowns happened in Toronto, Canada, where I'm from, Stephen's channel gave me hope and gave me a project to work on, but also a dream to help someone grow their channel who's a massive Arsenal fan. And although sometimes he might be a pain in the ass as a brother, but it's always a pleasure chatting Arsenal to anyone. And just to share the platform with him and to hear his experience and to see him strive and persevere through each struggle health-wise, it's an honor. And it gives me a lot more confidence in my own life as well. And do kindly check out Stephen's channel, his previous videos. He's had special guests on there before, like Fabrizio Romano, Lee Judges, Graham from AFTV, and a couple of others from Formula One as well. He does do a Formula One channel. He's a massive Lewis Hamilton
Yes.
fan. It's called S Feetly or Feetly F1. And Luca, where can people find you? And thank you so much, first of all, for having me on your show with Sophie from the Highbury Squad. Sophie is a wonderful person, and they do a great channel on the Highbury Squad. It was a quality stream, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, first is first. I want to big up, before I do shout out my socials, I want to big up Miss Mel for helping me creating this StreamYard for Sophie. Absolutely fantastic. Much appreciated for Mel helping me out organising this. We went through this yesterday for a few hours to organise this. I know I was slow FC, but however, we managed to work it out and it was very good. But no, go and subscribe to Miss Mel. Please turn the notifications, as always, on Mel's channel. Even if she doesn't do the match reaction straight away, just turn the notifications.
Even if she is Arteta.
And it helps the analytics on the channel, yeah? So, and also from my channel as well, go and subscribe to Luca AFC.
Yeah, the link's in the chat.
If you haven't gone and watched my special guest tonight with Sophie from the Highbury Squad, please do. And I want to big up Sophie as well. I want to say thank you very much for letting me and Mel, having given our time for just over an hour, for coming on the channel, giving much support, helping Mel. And me and Mel are going to be going on the channel some point soon, on her channel very soon. But go and subscribe to my channel, Luca AFC. We are back on Saturday, 1 p.m. for the Leeds preview as well. There might be a match prediction in between. A match reaction will be on Sunday, as soon as the game finishes. And that's what's coming on the channel. And thank you very much for inviting me on for a wonderful stream and a wonderful audience.
No problem, Luca. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's so late for you guys, so I really appreciate you giving up your time. And last but not least, the man of the hour, Manny. You are a pleasure to talk to. Someone who's very, very sensible, but also challenges people who, back the manager from the start or see more of process turning into progress. You challenge it in a very respectful way. And I like that a lot. You can have a proper discussion with people who don't necessarily agree with, glimpses of progress and they expect more, but you can have a proper debate. And I think that's really important in, football in general.
Yeah, the thing with me, Mel, is that I'm never one to engage in any kind of a slanging match or anything like that, because obviously we have different opinions. One thing which I cannot abide by is trying to say my piece and have people, shouting me down saying, you don't know what you're talking about. If we can have a respectful conversation like I do with Stephen, with Luca and you and several others, it's terrific. And I have been spoken to by a lot of fans of other clubs because they believe that I offer a refreshing perspective. And, I just try to contribute to the discussion. I want to say my piece. I don't want to be laughed at as some sort of a duffer who doesn't know what he's talking about. So hopefully, I contribute to the discussion well. I'll stick to the point as much as possible. I might tend to digress a bit, but I always come back to center, and that's what you get with me. Someone who has a lot to say, someone who's been a football fan for a very long time, someone who's seen the game develop from the time when the back pass rule wasn't even implemented to the way it is today. And I also remember how football used to be sort of a game which was played really more for the passion and the glory of the club and the country, and not the money pit that it is today. So I think I offer a great deal, and thank you for having me on. And as to where you can find me, I'm more active on social media. You can catch me on Twitter at Thangadurai1981. Instagram is Manny Thangadurai1981. So you see it's my name and my year of birth. No channels of my own as of yet, so I don't get to big myself up, but I do get to big up a lot of other terrific channels. Del Boy Gunner TV, my first, my last, my everything. Obviously, S. Feetly TV with my brother from another mother, Stephen. Oris Talks Football, Coach's Corner with Hanno Trollope, The King's Football Show with King Set, Football for Thought podcast with Nipun Sharma. Obviously, you will know. Shout out as well to Tony Claude Gunner TV.
Oh, Tony Claude is phenomenal.
he's another person who challenges me. I challenge
Yes.
him. We come to a consensus, and it's good fun. We don't get into slanging matches or anything of that sort. Also, shout out to Danny AFC TV. You can catch me doing watch-alongs with him on Thursday nights. We also get together on Thursday nights to just talk about football. He's sort of a re-emerging channel who's always been there, but he comes on, he offers a fresh perspective on everything, and his scouting and his knowledge of players and football is also, I would say, second to none. So do big him up. Shout out as well to Up the Cherries in all departments, a Bournemouth fan channel who I just had a stream with earlier on today. Love their work and everything they do, very closely knit. Great interviews with a lot of wonderful personalities in the game, ex-players, ex-referees, other terrific personalities. They need to grow their channel. Please subscribe to them. It's a fresh perspective. They welcome everyone and anyone, and you're welcome to come on and have your say. And the True Red Devils podcast, a Manchester United fan channel, Chelsea Dan, a Chelsea fan channel. I spread myself. I'm not just Arsenal all the time, you see. And also big up to you, Miss Melina. I know it's late, and I want to thank you for inviting me on at the first mention. I hope to come back on sometime in the future. Hopefully not so late, but in any way, in any case,
definitely
in any case,
more business hours.
Sorry, I just wanted to say that Tony Claude TV, I've only known him for for a few streams now, and the support the guys shown to my channel, and what my charity cause, the charitable cause that we do on the channel is mind blowing. He's an absolute gem of a person. I just had to say that.
I think the one thing I like the most of Tony, sorry Manny, I just want to say this, is he's someone who's very new to the YouTube, Arsenal YouTube, but he challenges people who are strongly against anything the manager does. And he does it in such a class way. Arsenal's a very classy club. You don't want to see people bickering and catfighting, especially on live. Well, maybe people want to see it for the views and stuff. But you see, there's a lot of channels that, they give their opinion genuinely, not for the views, not for the ratings. They give their genuine analysis of a game. And they give their genuine analysis of what they feel about the manager, the club, and the players from top to bottom in terms of our structure, in terms of our process turning into progress. What do you see and what don't you see? And I like that a lot from him. I hope to work with him in the near future. And Tony, I want to thank you so much for your support. I am going to be checking out your video. Also, he did do his first watch along today, which takes a lot of guts to do. So credits to Tony for that. I hope you had a great time. It was nice to see Tommy on there, a great friend of mine. And I want to shout out Boxer tuning in. I really appreciate your support. Recently, I've been having a lot more support from African countries. I want to shout out Nigeria, people watching from there, Ghana, Cameroon. And it's been incredible to see people messaging me on Twitter saying, hey, Melina, why didn't you do a video? I missed your video. You didn't do a video. Where have you been? People like to hear my opinions, but also people like to hear something quick, short, and concise, but also analytical. And it's an honor to have support from all across the world and to connect with Arsenal fans across the pond. With that being said, one love, everyone. Hopefully, we will see a Granit Xhaka banger very soon. Manny, sorry, I don't think you finished.
Yeah, just finally, let me say big up to you. I know it was short notice that you did this thing, and the fact that you called me on and invited me to be a part of this is just wonderful. I hope I'll get more opportunities, as I said.
Definitely.
And listen, it's also wonderful to see someone from the States coming in and someone who obviously is a lot more agreeable. I think I can speak for all of us when I say I do not like these slanging matches which sort of stand as debates. We need to have a proper discussion about everything, and I'm only sorry this stream was supposed to be for half an hour, it ended up going over about an hour 20 minutes, but hopefully it was a good stream.
Really good discussion.
Hopefully the people who have been watching this have enjoyed this, and it is getting really, really late for a lot of people, certainly in the UK, and all I can say is once again thanks a lot. Peace to everyone, have a good night, and I'm out.
Have a great night, everyone. Come on, you Gunners, and take care, everyone. Adios.
Cheers.